Welcome back to Our Canada, Our Future. We're talking with Melissa Mbarki from the Macdonald-Laurier Institute about the Pope's visit to Canada to apologize on behalf of the Catholic Church's role in residential schools and about reconciliation more broadly. Melissa, we were talking about the federal government and the sort of the good things and the not so effective things they've been doing. You mentioned programs and you mentioned the fact that the government is often bringing money to the table, but they're not focused on the same sorts of priorities. Can you sketch out some of the types of programs that you think would be particularly beneficial to Indigenous communities?
So I grew up in a rural community. We did not have any kind of after school activity. We did not have anything that kept us busy. So a lot of my friends, in our early teens, they were getting into trouble and they were doing things that they shouldn't do. And they had nothing else to do, and a lot of it stemmed from boredom. I see the same kind of things happening today in my community. Kids are bored. Give them something to do. Let's get them, some programs, some language programs. Let's get them some sports programs. Let's help them, be successful in life and give them a skill that they will use when they're an adult. Another thing is elder services. Our elders are slowly leaving us and they're taking their language and their knowledge with them. We don't have a way to capture this for our communities. So that's a really big worry. That's one of my biggest worries right now is, being left without that knowledge. And there's no way of us capturing that. We don't have the money, we don't have the resources to, get this knowledge or to save this knowledge. And it's cultural programs, these dancing, singing, like these would really help young people today. And we don't have any of this in our communities. And it would just take very little spending, very little money that would benefit an entire generation of kids. And, we don't have the resources for it because we have bigger things on our plate like water that we have to deal with. So, we need to get investments into these communities. We need to see healthy children, healthy adults. And that's the only way that we're going to thrive. And that's the only way we're going to move beyond residential schools and the effects of them.
I wanted to get your thoughts too on economic opportunity for Indigenous communities. We've seen there's sort of wide variance throughout Canada. Some communities are doing very well, others are really struggling. What do you think government can do to help improve the economic opportunity for especially those communities that don't seem to have much right now?
Financial literacy, energy literacy, this goes a long way in our communities. If we can get education and we can get, the knowledge out there, we wouldn't have, such biased opinions on certain things, and that's due to the lack of the education. And, if we can get programs, training programs in there to help people, I mean, that would just move mountains in a lot of ways. It would get people working. We would get people in the, labor market. We would see small businesses start up. Like there's so many economic opportunities that are out there, but, we often listen to outside views that aren't necessarily true. There's a lot of misinformation out there that people buy into. So how do we combat that? We combat it with education and, the skills and training that people will need.
Now, Melissa, with respect to economic opportunity in the energy sector in particular, what could governments do to help improve economic opportunity in that sector for Indigenous communities?
I think what governments could do is stop putting barriers in front of us when it comes to the energy sector. They don't realize that we're currently working with operators to reduce emissions. So whether that's through carbon capture, hydrogen, LNG, there's solutions out there that will help reduce emissions in Canada. And when you look at some of the bills and acts that have gone in, this has actually hindered, our ability to participate in large scale projects. I definitely think the government could stop, putting these barriers and consult with us because there is a whole other argument on the other side of the fence that they're not hearing. And I think bringing educated, people into these conversations will not only help Indigenous communities, but Canadians as well.
Well, thank you very much for those thoughts, Melissa. This was a great chat about a very important issue, and I want to thank you for joining us today. Obviously, this is something that's going to be a long road ahead for a lot of Canadians, especially Indigenous Canadians, but it's good to hear some positivity. I want to thank you, the viewers, for joining us today, and we'll see you next time on Our Canada, Our Future.